You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NCF&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina.
And now, waiting for their nomination, it's Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And everybody out there, get out your Kleenex or whatever tissue brand you like. Raise a glass, pour yourself your favorite cocktail, sit back and listen. For the last time as a dynamic duo.
That's right. We've recorded 500 episodes. We've been doing this for over 8 years, starting towards the end of 2016. Matt and I have been buddies for years, leading up way before all of this. But today marks a big day. This episode, we are, as a team, no longer going to do the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast.
Yep. I am heading for different pastures. I have started and in the works of starting my own podcast that is going to be very focused on wine and looking to be hyper local to super global, meaning, get some of the best minds of wine from the Raleigh and Durham and Chapel Hill area, like sommeliers, wine directors, winemakers, and then get, people who are making wine all around the world, like the Paul Hobbses of the world, and who's making wine from Argentina to Armenia and France and all the like. And so the working title is Wine Centric, but it's a working title. Yeah.
So stay tuned for that too. As it stands with the NCF&B, yours truly, Max Trujillo, will continue to release episodes. It may look a little bit different in the future. As we just mentioned, we've been doing this nonstop for 8 years. We've never missed an episode every Thursday. For 8 years, we have brought you all the stories of North Carolina's food and beverage industry, hopefully help lift everybody up, bring some insight, some charm, some class, and some education and humor, and hopefully all of that along the way during the time. But as it stands, I will take a little break. Matt's taking a permanent vacation, and I have other things that I'll get into in a moment that I'm going to work on. And then in the new year, we're going to find out what the NCF&B means for the community and how it's going to help. And I've got some thoughts. Maybe I'll throw them out here just to kind of see where everybody is thinking, and I'd love feedback. We'll throw this out on social media as well and see what the future of the NCF&B looks like in that realm. So Matt, your Wine Centric Podcast, how soon do you think you might release your first episode?
I would say look for a release sometime in the beginning to mid-October.
Okay.
Yeah, and my main platform will be YouTube. I'll be available on all the podcast channels, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, but I think my main one is going to be YouTube.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Yeah. That's cool. It's all kind of trending that way.
It's like, why pigeonhole yourself to only do one medium? You got both there, audio and video.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like we did about 2 years ago and switched to YouTube, and we've done some good stuff. We haven't exactly gotten the followership on YouTube. Maybe people just like to hearing our voices. It's very calming for them.
Yeah, maybe. And so Matt's new show will be on its own feed, but to help promote and to do this as a team, you can access his show on this page, so you can get the first 4 episodes on this one, just so any of our listeners that might not hear this episode and wonder what the heck's going on. This is Matt's new show, so check it out, download and subscribe on his own independent channel. But just for easy access for the few, lead off episodes, we'll kind of slowly transition you off to there.
Be like bonus content for the NCF&B.
Yeah, it'll more than likely probably come out on a different day, like a Tuesday or something like that. And then I myself have a totally different project that I've been working on, and I just wrapped all of the recordings for it. So hopefully I'll be putting it out probably about the same time. My goal is to release it right at the beginning of October. So look for this. It's coming soon. It is titled Every Second Counts, which is a connector to the Bear podcast or the Bear television show on FX. And we're going to go every episode, starting with season 1, which is 8 episodes long. I'm co-watching the episode with a prominent figure in the food and beverage industry and beyond. We have comedians and directors and writers that are not involved in the food and beverage industry, but love production. And so I've already
got a killer lineup.
I looked no further than Asheville and our very own Chef Katie Button, who has a similar career trajectory, having staged at Noma and El Bouilly and worked for Jose Andres and such, and Jean-Georges. So she leads off the whole show where we watch the show together, and then immediately after the show is done, we pick up the episode. And I talk a little bit about what happened in the episode. I talk a little bit about who my guest is, and then we just get right into it. And we parallel the episode with Katie in this scenario's real life, and like how this episode mirrors reality, which it's been interesting, and I was pleasantly surprised. We instantly get into Ricky Moore with episode 2, who's phenomenal, James Beard Award winner, and I can go through the list of everybody, but you've got Savannah Miller, you got Chef Chris Coleman, you have Andre Mack, who is a winemaker sommelier, you have Umar Khan, who is a up and coming fantastic comedian, joins me on an episode that really is just a hilarious episode. It's, if you guys know the show at all, it's the one where they go on an offsite for a kid's birthday party and accidentally spike the Ecto cooler with Xanax, and all the kids pass out at the end of the episode. And I just thought, let's bring a comedian in here and let's talk about it. So it was great. And then Umar blew me away because he knew everything about the culinary industry and like came to work, like he researched so hard. So it was fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So that's coming out also like right around the beginning of October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll release episodes seemingly right now, everybody. This is September 3rd. So it's like a month. That's why we're speaking kind of weirdly. And we've already recorded episodes that are going to come out over the next couple weeks. And we haven't made this announcement. So this is kind of coming a little bit later. But we're getting ahead of it. Today is the last time that Matt and I will record in this studio. And then who knows, as time goes on, maybe like, a couple of months down the road, it's like maybe we need to bring in a wine specialist for something, or talk about what Matt's got going on. I think the important thing to note, and people might want to know, is, Matt, are we cool?
Very. Like Fonzie.
We're cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we've been doing this show for 8 years, and for me, I'm ready for the next thing, and I feel like we accomplished our mission. I know you have some unfinished business and some other stuff that you want to still do with this, but I think we can both agree we really did put a spotlight, if nothing else, on what's going on here in North Carolina. So much so that we've been to the James Beard Awards a couple of times on the red carpet, next to the New York Times and whatnot. And the things that we've been able to accomplish with Bubbles and Brisket, and highlighting the new barbecue, so to speak, that's happening in this area. Yeah. And also for the people that are not in the industry, which was also that was one of my initial platforms that I wanted, or something that I wanted to accomplish. I really wanted to, for the civilian in this, if you would, to understand what it's like to be in the industry, whether you're a chef or a maker or whatever, or a manager, and understand what's going on in that person, and kind of bring that conversation more to the public, so that there's not such a continental divide. And I feel like we really accomplished those things in the 8 years and 500 episodes. Yeah.
So, maybe we do a little stroll down memory lane. There were some really big things that we had accomplished that were impactful. But I guess in the very beginning, if those that don't know and, casually listen, Matt and I have known each other for years, both working at a restaurant in Los Angeles. I got promoted to like the floor manager, or I called myself the wine director, even though no one called me that. And then I just was assumed the position.
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. And one of the first things I had to do was to kind of hire my replacement as like, I guess I was the lead bartender or so. And so Matt came in, he was working there. You were an aspiring actor, and you were from NYU and from New York coming out to LA to do some things, as most of us were doing. I was kind of following a little bit more of like the music career while working in restaurants. But yeah, I interviewed him. I got along with the guy. I mean, in LA, I probably had like 30 interviews over the first few days, which is like a good thing back then. Nowadays, good luck trying to get that many people to interview for a restaurant job. But Matt knew quite a bit about wine, or he pretended like he did at least.
I knew what Macabeo was. I think that was what hooked you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I might have been like super into Spanish wines at the time. And so it was cool. The wine program was huge. And I had inherited it from somebody that knew their business and had basically given us a pretty cool wine list to procure. It was international with a heavy California influence, as it would be in Los Angeles. But I needed help, and it's always good. I always say to young somms, taste as much as you can, and taste in a group as much as you can, and then talk about this stuff, right?
Yeah, I'll say that, we made it fun, but our nights doing inventory, and then we'd pop a couple of bottles, play piano. But the other stuff is like, for young people that want to learn about wine, get your hands on labels and taste. I mean, and tasting and counting those bottles and knowing how to categorize them. It's you can't pay for that sort of stewardship or mentorship. It's like knowing where to and figuring out where these wines belong on a list and physically in a category. It tells you everything you need to know to start your wine journey.
Yeah, and it was cool. I mean, you can learn a lot from YouTube, let's say, but you can't really learn this whole idea. Somebody recently asked me, they wanted to be a sommelier, and they just wanted me to give a very neat and clean, succinct answer of how long does it take to become a somm?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, it really is all about you and the path you want to be on, and then the infrastructure that you put yourself in. Because at that time, Matt and I were both working in restaurants at a place that had a great and respectable wine program. So we had a ton of wine reps coming in, and we were the pretty girl at the prom. That's how I always say it, because we had a huge budget to buy wine, and we went through a lot of wine. So a lot of people loved that we would buy from them. We were like a target list.
Yeah.
And so we got invited to tastings. We went to other tastings than we were being tasted on at all times. So, I mean, in any given week, Matt and I, as employees of that restaurant, would taste 30, 40 wines?
Definitely. And if there was a big consumer tasting, it would be a lot more, because you're tasting maybe 40 wines just
in that day.
Yeah. And obviously then the perks, we were close to Santa Barbara wine country, so we could go up there in 2 hours and people would be like, "Oh, you buy for this restaurant? Please come in."
Yeah, here's a couple of free bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the nice perks of it. But no, I think those are the kind of things that I'll be certainly talking about on Wine Centric is how do you get to learn about wine? And even if you don't want to be a sommelier, how do you get better at just your own flavor journey of wine, right? Easily finding what you want to drink, what excites you, and what's next to drink.
And just knowing how to order at a restaurant.
And knowing how to order at a restaurant, yeah.
Go to a cool restaurant and you look at lists, you're like, I know my Aunt Janice likes Pinot Grigio, but it's like, you can do better. You can find other things.
Listen, maybe Aunt Janice knows what she's talking about, but that doesn't mean Aunt Janice's flavor journey is done, right?
Yeah. By the way, if you see a Pinot Grigio that's authentically and fully extracted and made, it's going to have some rosy color to it.
You're talking about some orange wine?
Well, but Pinot Grigio is named, it's a gray grape. And because its color of its grape it's not a white grape and it's not a red grape. It's kind of its own thing. And if you fully extract it, it's going to have some color.
So, here you go. Yes, Pinot Gris is the same as Pinot Grigio, and they call it that. You're right, Gris is gray.
Right.
Because Pinot Gris mutates on the vine. Yeah. And what happened?
The Verasion, the Cuvée Sang, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, when the color change. Yeah,
yes.
Verasion. And so what happened is they're growing it in this Friuli or eastern part of Italy on the Adriatic coast and where not the other coast, and where Slovenia is and all these things are. They didn't know how to treat it, so they treated it like red wine. And what you would do with red wine is you would macerate it and age it in oak like you would a red wine, because they're like, oh, it's gray, so I guess we treat it more like a red wine. And so thus birthed orange wine. We didn't know it was orange wine at the time.
Yeah.
Nobody called it. There was no hipsters in Brooklyn drinking orange wine. But this was a very, like, one of the most classic producers, one called Movia from Slovenia. And so that's really where orange wine started and why it started.
And I think I tried my first Movia while at Cafe Del Rey.
I think so, yeah.
Somebody came in and tasted us on it, and I'm like, leave these bottles. And they're like, okay. I'm like, we got to taste these. And I think like the whole team, anyone that cared that was there, I'm like, guys, this is something that no one knew.
Stuff. But I don't think Aunt Janice was there.
No. And if so, she would have put ice chips in them.
Oh, God.
But yeah, so I first moved to North Carolina in 2013. Got in the restaurant industry. Matt eventually showed up in 2016 in the summer. His wife was pregnant with their first child. And, you know, because we had this friendship, we were like, we got to do something. So we created the show. We've done this. We've mentioned this part of the story a few times, so I won't bore everybody with those details. But we started in my basement of my house. We recorded a few test episodes.
Point of contention. We actually started in Felicia's office upstairs.
That's right.
We recorded the first episodes up there.
That's right. Hi Tran, Matthew Bettinger. I think there was only two.
Yeah.
Oh, and Hank Schutemaker
was up there.
From the Angus Barn. So it was those three, and it was we still had the lost episode of Matthew Bettinger, the third episode we ever recorded. Pro Tools crashed, or no, it wasn't Pro Tools. It was GarageBand crashed in the middle of an awesome podcast when Matthew Bettinger said all these amazing and enlightening and funny things, and then we're like, shit, it crashed, and we couldn't save any of it. And then we just re-recorded kind of, and that was episode 3, I think, if you would watch it, but or listen to it. But from that point on, I was like, why am I dealing with the GarageBand? I switched over to Pro Tools, and it was a much more stable program until it started crashing 5 years later. And then we switched over to a Rodecaster, and that's solid as Sears. I never had a problem with it since. But anyhow, so we've done some things. We did effectively, like, I think we did about 70 some odd episodes at my house. Ashley Christensen being episode 50. That was a huge one for us because we all know Ashley's pretty awesome, and it's not just in the community think that's a national thing. She's a big player in the industry. And when she decided that she would acknowledge us as a podcast and as an entity, and then named us the Storytellers of North Carolina as food and beverage industry, that was like a big thing for us and a huge achievement day for us. And then we decided we needed to like kind of grow up and expand and do more.
Yeah. And even those first couple of days on the road, we would go to Charlotte. We did a Charlotte week pretty early on. Like, wasn't that episode 16 or something? 16 through 20?
Yeah, we did it in like January of that year. We released the episode. The first episode was released December 1st, 2016. So we had already had 7 in the bag that we had recorded, and we released them all on that day one. And then we started doing weekly after that. And yeah, I think you, because you were selling liquor at the time, had a reason to be in Charlotte.
Yeah, that was a lot of our travels. I was lucky enough to get a room and be in Charlotte or be at BevCon or wherever it was. And
I would just hitch a ride.
I'd be like, well, let's get interviews and come along while you're here, you know?
Yeah.
Just don't snore too loudly.
I cannot make those promises. But yeah, so that was cool. We would hit the road. We tried to not be as triangle centric as possible, although it's like challenging when, you know, we have other jobs and we're doing other things. I was essentially the general manager for most of the time during those 8 years. And Matt was a sales rep of some capacity. You've had a few positions, but the last one for the longest time.
For a very long time.
Yeah. And so, we just kind of fluctuated, and we found time. We ended up making it steady. I mean, this is some advice I would give to anybody that wants to do a podcast: is consistency is key. And, you know, if you're a listener to a show, you probably like knowing that show is going to have a new episode when they tell you it's going to be, whether it's once a month or every day, once a week. But we chose once a week, every Thursday. It gave us time to, you know, edit and all that. And then we would record on Tuesdays. And typically, I would edit the very next day or later that night and get it ready for Thursday, or bank a few. And we did that a lot, and that's good because then we could take a few weeks off if we needed to.
Yep.
But no, we took it serious. I think a lot of people that do podcasts don't take it serious, and they're like, "I'll do it when I get a chance or when I have an opportunity." But that was our thing.
Yeah.
And it worked well.
Absolutely. All right, Max, let's get to it. What no particular order or no numbered list, but can you fast track us through some of your most memorable moments of the show?
Well, actually, we just had the year anniversary yesterday. Last year, as we were in Charlotte with Jess Sims, and even though that's a more recent memory, it was cool. Jess Sims, of course, you'll know her from TV and Peloton and College Game Day and all. And she's done quite well for herself. And, Matt just reached out to her on Instagram and was like, I see you're going to be in Charlotte for College Game Day. We'd love to show you around and show you some great restaurants. And if so, maybe we could tape it, film it, and put it out. And she's like, hell yeah, let's do that. And so we're like, oh shit. She said yes. All right, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so we did. And that was an amazing experience. I wish more people would have watched that show than had, but that's maybe the thing that Matt and I have never really been that best at is marketing and getting our shit out there. I would say the content's cool, but sometimes just getting it out there is the hardest thing.
Yeah, and it's still out there. It's called Where Do We Eat?
Yeah.
Look it up on YouTube with Jess Sims.
We ate at 3 awesome places and got drinks at all of them. And the coolest note about that whole content was this was shot in exactly 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like we didn't take breaks, and the episode's not that long. The episode's only like a half hour.
No, I think it's less. Isn't it like 16 minutes or something? No?
Yeah, it's a short. Yeah, it's like, think of it as like just like a little segment you'd have on a TV show or so. But it was tight. But we went to like these cool places and we did it in real time. We had 3 courses of food at each place with drinks, and we interviewed the chef and the general manager or bartender. All 3 of us, Jess, you and I, and we had a team. It was actually pretty cool how we did it. And everyone that knew that we were going to do it kept saying, there's no way you guys are going to get this accomplished. And we did it. So that was me. What about you, Matt? What's something that sticks out to you?
I keep coming back to the Scott Crawford episode. And maybe it's because of his success lately, but just, me, I've always been like this, a poor man's journalist. Like I always thought like the great interviewers of our time, and I wanted to like bring the show in a heady way to that. And I thought that interview was like the best. We were super prepared. He felt super comfortable, and I think prior to that he was kind of a mystery to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it was nice. It was rewarding. I felt so many people who I'd never heard, if they actually listened to the show, even if they knew me, they'd be like, you guys, that was a really good episode.
Yeah.
And it was a 2-parter because there was so much good information. So that one keeps sticking out for me.
He like was elusive. We couldn't get him on the show.
Yeah.
We'd asked him for years. In fact, the way Matt and I even first started the show is we each wrote down our top 10 list of people we wanted on our show. And Hai Tran, who is a great sommelier and at the time was at Heron's when Scott Crawford was there.
That's right.
Was running the wine program. And since Matt and I are very wine centric in general, we both agreed that we wanted Hai to be our first guest. And then even that was kind of funny. We released it on December 1st.
Which was his birthday.
Yeah, which is his birthday.
And the day that he decided to leave or to announce that he was leaving Heron's.
And North Carolina.
Yeah.
So we decided to build a show around the food and beverage industry of North Carolina. And the first guest tells us on the episode that he's moving to Philadelphia.
But he's back.
Yeah. That's right. What is he doing now? He's selling wine?
He works for, I think, one of the wine publications. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. And he's back here. He's got kids now, and yeah.
But yeah, so we tried to get Scott on for years, and it was always like, I'm kind of busy or just nothing, crickets. And then at some point I had dinner at his place, and it was my wife that just said point blank, hey, Scott, get on the show. Yeah. He's like, I guess. She's like, no, not I guess. Let's put it on the calendar right now. Max has been asking you for years. Just do it. And he's like, all right, I guess I could do it. So he did it. And I think even he enjoyed getting on there. He had a great time. And I think even since then, he's been a lot more public facing.
Yes.
I think he was like concerned about just speaking his mind because he's got some pretty big opinions about things in the industry. But I think those are opinions that everybody wanted to hear anyhow. So it was cool. If I'm going to think of another one, Matt and I take great pride in knowing that one of the mothers of the industry in this culinary industry, Miss Preeti Weiss, came on our show, and I'm just going to say it. We'll take the credit for getting her name out there in the beginning. Now, she's, of course, responsible for all of her success, but I will say in the beginning, Preeti was running a small little cafe inside of a YMCA gym that happened to be right across the street from these studios on Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. And I think Felicia met her somewhere and had this great conversation with her, and she's like, she's really an interesting woman. And no offense, Preeti, and we even said this in the show, but we're like, yeah, but who cares? You're running this small little cookie store inside a gym, which is just kind of weird, but like, why would we have this conversation? Then I met her somewhere, and she was just like really engaging, and we're like, you know what? You should get on the show. And she came in, and it was, to me, one of our more compelling episodes when she like really got open and started talking about like abuse in her family, how the kitchen was her safe haven. Like she knew if she was cooking, she wasn't going to get abused by her father and such. Then it was like such a touching and real moment. And I think a lot of people could share in that and could understand what like the kitchen and what like that type of craft could mean to you in a much bigger way than just learning the technique. And from that point on, we were touting Preeti Weiss everywhere, and she opened up Chini Emporium in North Raleigh. We told everybody we could that she is the woman that everyone needs to know about. She's the next big thing. She's awesome. We made her the Person of the Year. We actually created the award for her.
She was the inaugural.
Yeah, we didn't have a Person of the Year award before that. And from that point on, she got noticed in Eater Carolinas. She got noticed in the NNO. The Raleigh Magazine did things.
James Beard.
And then, of course, she gets nominated for the James Beard Awards 2 years in a row. And then has opened. She has since closed the original location, essentially just moved it to Durham. And now she's opening another, like a new bar concept.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And she really is like, she's everybody's mother in this industry. She's just a sweetheart, nice person. And I will say, I think we had something to do with helping her get her story out to the public. And I feel good about that.
Yeah, I love that. And the other things that come to mind is all the ancillary things that we did outside of studio, you know, being the judge for the food awards, the tastemakers in NC for Our State Magazine was a pretty awesome thing. Getting to host the NCRLA Awards, we emceed them for 3 years in a row, I believe.
At least, maybe 4. Yeah.
3 years in a row. That was, you know, looking back on that was really a really nice honor to be in front of our industry and kind of taking them through this night, which is super impactful, and all the stories that you get to illuminate there, those types of things.
They're doing like a Tasteful Affair, which was
doing a Tasteful Affair way back in the day.
The Ronald McDonald House, of course, to help children, which has been a through line for a lot of the things that we've done.
Yeah,
helping charities and a lot of children's charities, because it kind of goes hand in hand when you start talking about food and events and all of these types of things. So it's been part of a lot of what we've done.
Yeah. But also then like getting to go on the road to the first time we went to Euphoria Greenville, which Max, you're heading up there later this month, or down there, I should say. And I remember the first time we got to interview Sam Jones.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, he was like a mythical figure at that point. And I studied and prepared so hard for that interview because a good friend of the show, Matthew Register, had set that one up and brought him to us. And that was so much fun. And then he came and we had drinks with him after, you know.
He told the best jokes.
It was fun.
Going to New York. We went to New York.
Going to Floyd Cardozo's home.
Oh, man.
Eating asparagus out of his ground.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then so a lot of people out here probably don't know who Nick Anderer is, but he's a phenomenal chef working for the Union Hospitality Group.
Yeah.
And has at the time he was doing, oh my God, I can't think of the name of that place, but it was like a Roman pizza joint that was fantastic. But even since then, he's opened up new restaurants in New York. But I remember he didn't know us from anyone, and there wasn't even PR. It was just so just simple. We just DM'd him on Instagram, and then we ultimately just met him at his apartment in Manhattan, and just hung out there. He made pasta, and like we were just sitting around. He was just a dude that is a pretty legit guy, and like, you know, it's like kind of the beginning stages of podcasting, especially in the food and beverage podcasting. People weren't really doing that at the time. Now everybody and their mother has a podcast, but
including Aunt Janice.
Yeah, it's called Ice Chips Aplenty. But no, and then, well, of course, we also then created our own event. We created Bubbles and Brisket. We've done 4 of them. We haven't really talked about the future of Bubbles and Brisket. We've kind of just talked about, like, we officially have, like, legally separated ways as of 45 minutes ago in the offices. So that's that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Who knows if we'll ever do another Bubbles and Brisket, although it's there. And if the community really wants it, and, you know, I think I'm going to be, I don't want to talk out of school because I haven't done it yet, but I may have a new job. And if I do, it might help support those things. And then Matt's still working within wine. So who knows? We'll see what the future holds, because it definitely could happen if we wanted to.
Yeah,
but,
it could.
Yeah, but Bubbles and Brisket itself was
Bubbles and Brisket,
a good time.
Yeah, I love thinking about where that started, because it's such a microcosm of the show. You know, we started in Cary with maybe 100 to 120 guests, and it pouring rain that day at V Pizza parking lot, and then moving the next year to Smoky Hollow, and then seeing it this year to where it was like, I don't know, probably 800 people there, and it was like a thing for the community, to the point where I know your daughters have worked at, but now my boys even be like, they'll mention it just rarely, like, oh, Bubbles and Brisket is so much fun, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that I look back and I'm super proud. Like that's something that people in this community, that they're going to be like, oh, those were great things. Mm-hmm. And maybe Bubbles and Brisket will live on.
Who knows? You know, and just thinking of something we did, it's not in timeline order, but really one of the coolest things that we did, it was way in the beginning, was Lambstock.
Yeah, I had that thought in my head as well.
Yeah, which, you know, I had gone I went 1 year, I think, on my own, or maybe 2 years, and then I was like, we should bring the show to Lambstock, and then we did, and we didn't just bring the show, we brought an RV, and we brought like 5 bartenders with us and about 35 cases of liquor. And we did the NC F&B bar. Yeah. And it was cool. While all these chefs just made food, there was no money exchanging hands, and we had a great time. And it was like a 2-night sleepover camp with chefs and industry folk. And then we did a 3-part episode about it. And those were great. And that really connected both, like, Virginia, because technically it was in Virginia, at Border Springs, but that connected us to people in Virginia and just kind of all over. And it really just was one of the best, like, communal food and beverage events that I think I've ever belonged to, which was really, really fun. Yeah.
Lambstock, going to Charleston Wine and Food, even Beaufort this year was really cool to get to experience that. And
Feast of Wilmington. And like, we have toured around quite a bit.
Yeah. Went to Chow Chow in Asheville 2 times. Mm-hmm. This past about a year ago.
Terra Vita a few times.
Terra Vita was, that was a really great festival. And I never understood why Colleen shut it down. But looking back on all the work we take to it, Bubbles and Brisket, I was like, okay, I understand now, like, why you don't do that anymore. We were doing
one event on one day, and she was doing like 30 events over 4 days or whatever. It's like, it's a lot. It's a lot to do.
Yeah.
Pepperfest in Pittsburgh.
Pepperfest, that's right.
Oh, and we went to the Outer Banks with the gents from.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, to go to the Blue Crab Day. Yep.
Yeah.
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 And then and that was also. That led also to us being part of the Triangle Wine Experience, when it was a little bit more of a industry-friendly event. And
now it's, do you have your Platinum Amex card with you?
Platinum?
I mean, your Black Amex?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you have get to come. If not, hit the road, kid.
But back then, it would be winemakers from all over. I mean, and we had titans of the industry on from that. We had Raj Parr, Jim Clendenin, Jasmine Hirsch, all in the same room. They gave us a little room on the side of the industry tasting. Yeah. And that was a great day, especially for me. I mean, that was like, wow.
That's one of the questions on the on Every Second Counts, the Bear podcast I'm doing, when I interviewed Andre Mack, who has been a guest on our show, and actually it's one of the top episodes we've ever had as far as listenership. I asked him a question. I said, we were talking about storytelling in wine, and I said, who's the best storyteller in the wine industry that you know? And he's like, oh, that's easy. It's Raj Parr. He's like, I just love hearing him talk about wine, and it makes me want to make wine when I hear him talk about wine making. Yeah, he's a cool dude. And of course, like, he and Andre are similar in a sense that they were sommeliers running big programs, Raj for Michael Mina and Andre with Thomas Keller, French Landry per se, and then shifted to winemakers, which at the time no one was doing that. They are like really kind of cutting edge. It's now becoming more common, but that's like, I don't know, it's like a comedian becoming the director of a movie, you know, like they're doing all of it now, which was pretty cool. It was cool to watch that evolution. Yeah. But, I mean, wow, man, it's been a lot.
It's a heck of a catalog.
There's been a lot in there. Oh, and then like we should probably give thanks to some of the folks that have worked with us during this time. I mean, you know, like the show's still going to continue, but it'll be a little different. But like, you know, a shout out to the Kraken, Lauren Cruckton. She did a lot of our copywriting and our social media posting.
She was probably our longest lived employee.
Yeah, I think she worked for us for at least 4 years, maybe. She started off as an employee of Food Scene, Felicia's company. And Food Scene was sponsoring us in trade by doing all of our social media to kick off. And Lauren was the rep, like she was the account rep for us, essentially. Yeah. And then when Lauren moved on to become a writer at Raleigh Magazine, we asked, well, would you still write for us and do social media? Because we really like what you do. And she stayed on for years. And it was just, you know, I think everything runs its course just like this today. But after about 4 years, I think we just kind of all mutually agreed, like, oh, let's do something else. And to this day, whenever I see Lauren, it's like, she's the best.
Oh, yeah, she's the best.
Yeah. And then, yeah, we've had, like, listeners like Steven Such and
the
Swap
OG.
Come in as just listeners to the show, but then became friends, helped work events like Bubbles and Brisket or so. Terrence Caulfield, good people. Cassie Geiger, you know.
We might have to cut that. I can never remember her last name because that's Tim's last name.
That's Cassie Geiger. That's her name.
I don't think she goes by that name.
Either way, Cassie.
Yeah. Who you can now find at East End Bistro or Giorgio's Pizza Bar. Yeah. And I'll give a shout out to Castle. We don't see her too often as well, but she was a part of the team for a while. Yeah. She helped out. And I mean, and all the while, it's like, geez, you'd worked at, you sold liquor, you sold a different portfolio that shall remain nameless. That's right.
And then now you've done a lot with.
Tomorrow, as we record this, will be my sixth full year with Winebone.
That's a long time. Damn.
I know. It's crazy.
During that time, I had my last day at Midtown Grill was the day before we released this show. Mm-hmm. So it was like November 30th, right after Thanksgiving. I was done at Midtown and we just started the show. And then I helped out at Standard Foods. I went to help create Y Hill and like consulted with them. Then the shutdown shut everything down. I came back because the folks at Y Hill were like, hey, we got some PPP money and we need to reopen and phase 2 is about to come in. Would you help us figure this out? And I took it as a challenge and it was fun and we did it. And then it got crazy as shit and that restaurant hasn't slowed down since. And then there was like little consultings of little places I did in between and around. And then of course I started doing crafting with my partner Kip, which to this day, I remain good friends with. A lot of people will say, like, you know, you open a business, you lose a bunch of money, you close the business, and then the friendship deteriorates. But I would disagree with that statement because Kip and I, we were just hanging out having beers the other day. And, like, I'm super proud. The guy just bought a beach house with his family. And he's having a good time. And he gave me some advice about this potential new job I may take and helped out. So it's like, it's good to keep your friends close, you know? Yeah. And I wish and hope that for the same you and I, Matt. We've known each other before. We did this for 8 years. The funniest part, we haven't even talked about this. You're number 2 on the draft tonight.
Oh, I know.
Matt and I have been doing a fantasy football draft way longer than we've been doing podcasting.
It was like 2003, no, I think 2006. I think we've known each other since 2006.
Okay. And we probably started the
first year, yeah.
First year we did the fantasy football league.
Yeah.
Yeah, the All Madden League.
Yeah.
And of which I am the commissioner, but I'm like reluctantly the commissioner. I don't really want to be, but no one wants to do it. I'm like,
it's like
you dicks.
my kids' soccer teams. Nobody else wants to coach it.
Yeah.
So I'm the coach.
All right, I'll bring the Gatorades to the tennis match, which is literally what the Trujillos have to do today right after this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're pick 2. I'm pick
2.
6.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at anything. I'm going to do everything.
2QB, PPR, IDP
Yeah.
league, snake draft league.
10 team.
10 team. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
For your mock drafting out there.
The 2 quarterback thing changes it all for everybody.
It changes it all, yeah.
Because it doesn't now like quarterback. You have to get your quarterbacks in the beginning. It's like most
Is that
leagues.
what you're going for, Max?
I will tell you right now, if there is a top flight quarterback by pick 6, then yes, I will pick that person.
Yeah.
But chances are that Josh Allen, Mahomes, and who's the big boy that I keep.
Well, Jalen Hurts is projected to
He's
go,
up
and
there.
Lamar Jackson. And the guy from the Colts is Anthony Richardson is
Oh, yeah.
thought of to be really.
By the way, this is so stupid. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Will Levis of the Tennessee Titans, who's actually a pretty damn quarterback, damn good quarterback.
Pretty, for sure.
He's pretty too. Well, that's part of it. For those that aren't out there, I might have to put this post up. Do you know, and it's almost blasphemous because we are a Duke's Mayonnaise podcast here. Like they've previously sponsored the show.
Yeah.
We're pro Dukes because it's also from the South. We like Dukes.
For sure.
But Hellman's got into bed with Will Levis.
Oh, no.
And released a cologne, a mayo-based cologne. I kid you not. It is super ridiculous. I actually had to text it to my daughter Charlotte because she literally just told me the other day. She goes, "Dad, I love mayonnaise. I love mayonnaise so much." And it was so ridiculous. Let's see if I can even put the audio up on this. It's this. Like, it's a joke, but it's also not a joke.
Well, I'm so glad we could tie our, secret passion of football back to food and beverage.
Yeah, right? Maybe if the show was still going and we could get Will Levis on, then Matt, you might have to, stick around for another episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, like...
Is he just drinking a jar of
He's
mayonnaise?
smelling mayonnaise. He's topless. He's eating bread with mayonnaise covered all over it.
I mean, this literally looks like a Saturday Night Live commercial.
He's licking mayonnaise off his finger, and now he's squirting his cologne
and shushing
us.
Wait, like you can legitimately buy that?
Yeah, I went to the site. Hellman's is literally. We lost all of our videos too while this happened. That's great. I think because I changed something here. Either way. Well, it's fitting that our podcast ended without audio or without video.
Yeah,
It's like
fade to black.
Fade to black. Who cares? Who needs to see our pretty faces? But yeah, it's like a real. It's a real thing. I checked. They sold out. Now they're going to release new ones. But apparently, it's like a real cologne. So. Maybe
all right. Well,
stocking stuffer.
Yeah. I'll know what to get you now. Well, Max, I want to say thank you to you for doing all the production and the editing of the show and a lot of the heavy lifting in the beginning, especially when you didn't have a specific day job. You definitely were out there pimping it. And also your gregarious nature led us to a lot of the guests and the doors that were knocked open for us. So I want to say thank you to you for all that.
Thanks,
and and of course, I wish you the best. I'm excited myself to listen to Every Second Counts. And I'll say all of you that actually listened to the show and cared about it and and support all of these restaurants and makers and chefs and sommeliers, distillers, brewers, the farmers, who we're talking about, ice cream makers. It's been a pleasure to be a voice for this industry. And like I said, to put a spotlight on these people that are working their butts off and making all these great things here in North Carolina.
Well said, Matt. And I appreciate, I think, I always, oh, look, our cameras are back. I always thought of this show as like, it has to be entertainment. So I would always try to make it like funny or dynamic, or there's just so many podcasts that are dull and boring. And I was really hoping that wasn't going to be what our show was. And I don't know, maybe people were like, no, this is the most boring shit ever. But I know this particular episode isn't like the most exciting, but I tried to bring like the dynamic of like entertainment, quote unquote, to the table. But what you really brought was the nuts and bolts and like the education, the thoughtfulness. You asked really intelligent questions. You sometimes ask the difficult questions that not everybody would have the nerve to ask, when shit went sideways with somebody, and you weren't afraid to just say like, hey man, like, I'm trying to think right now but you've done some ones where it was like, oh shit, I can't believe you just actually asked that person that, and we, you went there essentially. But yeah. I appreciated your fearlessness in doing that, and it definitely added to the authenticity of the show. So you will sorely be missed. I will say, and this is what I posed this out to the community. I haven't even really said this to you, Matt, but I don't know, maybe this is what we'll do. I've always looked at the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast to be, like, as we've said, a show of record, right? Yeah. And it's like, it should be something that should live on, Yeah. And if I don't do it, or if you don't do it, and if no one pays the monthly bill on the RSS feed, then these episodes, they just go away. And so part of it is like, I don't want that to happen. I want people to be able to go back on these and listen to these things as kind of like a show of record, a stamp, something you can really hold on to. So I'm going to keep it going for that reason in for particular. But also I think, as I've kidded around, is like, we've definitely knocked out the middle-aged white guy point of view over the last 40 or 500 episodes. And also this consistency of doing, we wore it as a badge of honor to do this every Thursday. I think there's something that, I think we're going to do something a little different with the show going forward. I think I'm going to change it around to be in seasons. Mm-hmm. And we may do like 10 episode seasons and do them tightly, focusing on like a certain place. And maybe we'll this will all be about the Triad, or this will all be about Asheville, or so. Or the other idea is still do these seasons, just because it's daunting to continually do this all the time. But I think what I'd like to do is open it up to have multiple guest hosts. And so we have a lot of great friends out in Asheville, great friends out in Wilmington, and I would love to put it out there, and I'll do it on social media, but see who wants to be a guest host or a host for effectively like a season. Mm-hmm. And just be like, hey, like, just throwing it out there. This is Keith Rhodes, who's going to host the show for like the next 10 episodes. And he's going to do a deep dive into Wilmington, and we're going to learn everything about what it is there. And maybe I'll still edit it, and put it together, but I don't necessarily need to be on camera or on mic. So it might be something like that. And maybe we get, people of different ages, sexes, ethnicities, whatever, but just more diversity, and really tell the full story about what North Carolina's food and beverage is today. That's kind of where I think it should go. So
I'd listen to that.
Thanks. Well, we got one listener. There we go. Well, I think we said it, like as Howard Stern says. Well, that's all. I think we've said it all.
Yeah, I think it all.
I think we said it all.
Shalom.
So, Matt, will you take us out of here for the last time?
For all of you out there, listen to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, all about eating and drinking extremely merrily.
Thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. By rating us online, you're helping others to discover our show. Follow us on all platforms at NCF&B Pod.